Hello everyone, how you going? Welcome back to some more Heritage Minutes, the 1 minute movies that just answer as many questions as they leave you with, and so we're starting out with Maurice Ruddick.
It was back in '58. 7 of us were trapped together in the mine after the bump. We lay by a pipe to breathe. My leg was broken. Percy was dying beside me. But I said, "Come on, boys, the Lord is watching for us." And I started singing. Then we all sang. 8.5 days, no food. Even drank our own, And I just happened to shout into that pipe when the dragomen were passing by. Some good folks in the U.S. gave all its survivors a free holiday in the South. Said I couldn't stay with the others because of my color. The boys were going to refuse, but I said no. We'll all have our holiday, then we'll be together again. And we were. 74 died in that bump, but that was life around the Spring Hill mines. Closed now. So much death. But my, didn't we sing those hymns together?
Well, if there was ever a Heritage Minute to prove me right about leaving you with as many questions as it answered or kind of stirs up in the first place, this is the one. I have no context surrounding this entire thing. Maybe I scroll down. An Afro-Canadian coal miner describes how he and his fellow workers survived 8 days trapped underground during the 1958 mining disaster in Spring Hill, Nova Scotia. Honestly, that description I don't think really just does it justice, because the facts and the figures that he just listed there with, he managed to scream into the pipe at the right time. There was 74 that perished in the entire collapse, let alone that his leg was broken. He was down there for 8 days. They had no water, no food, anything like that. And so this is a remarkable story. And that's before they even got out of the mine. It sounded as though there was an entire extra thing on top of that where he was offered a holiday, but then he refused or someone else refused. I'm going to have to listen to it again.
And I just happened to shout into that pipe when the dragomen were passing by.
The dragoman. Well, I've just tried to spell it phonetically. Did you mean this one? Yes. Okay, dragoman. Sure, that's not phonetic at all. But a member of crew trained for underground rescue work. Well, I guess that certainly makes sense as to why you would want to be yelling when they were passing by. But no, I never heard of those. Good to know. But then continuing on.
Some good folks in the U.S. gave all its survivors a free holiday in the South.
I don't understand that. Some good folks, meaning kind of people they were working with, or was it just like an entire voluntarily supplied thing? The boys were going to refuse, saying that they were going to refuse the holiday, or they were going to refuse what? And then, as I said, the figure that he says next, just being 74 people perished in this collapse, I believe he says.
74 died in that bump.
In that pump? I don't really know what pump means in this regard.
That was life around the Spring Hill mines.
And then even just to say that was life around the Spring Hill mines. The fact that 74 people perished in a pump, I can only assume a collapse, and that's just kind of deemed as life. Honestly, it sounds like the opposite of life to me, but that is just an insane story. The fact that they were able to survive, I'd love to see a kind of schematic or cross-sectional diagram about how deep they were, what they were doing, what they even mining in the first place. Actually, I think they said coal. And so, what was it, Maurice Riddick, 1913 to 1988, 75 years old, with an incredible story. I guess it came from a negative place, so it's not the greatest story to have, but I guess you can just say, okay, I don't know if I'm lucky, I don't know if I was in the right spot, I don't know if I yelled at the right time, whatever it was, but at least I'm here, and I'm still able to be with my family, and really after that, your entire life, I'm sure, would change, your perspective would change. I don't know if he went back to work, hopefully not. Surely that's a bit life-changing for you to go back into work just 2 days later, especially because it is by no means a very nice place to be, just a coal mine. There isn't too many other places in the world, literally in the earth, that I would rather just not have to spend my entire life and my entire career in. And so I can only hope that he got out of that place. I mean, he said it closed, but I don't know if it closed within his time or later on. Either way, it just is a horrendous situation to be in, and so I'm glad that he made it out, even though some people didn't. But anyway, now moving on to our second one, we have Tien Parent.
We're all sons of liberty! If I'm thinking about, it was to put an end to this corrupt regime! They'll never succeed in getting rid of us!
I'm a patriot, but I'm against this armed insurrection. We must reply to bureaucrats who stifle us. We can thrive through education, political economy, and industry, not armed rebellious acts. Our two races can live side by side without one enslaving the other.
Jailed for such radical editorials, Etienne Perron kept his paper Le Canadien going for months, with a little help from his friends.
Votre journal, monsieur le directeur. Merci. Hold it.
A century later, the political ideas that had inspired Etienne Parent would reappear and transform Quebec in its quiet revolution.
Wow. Well, that was just a roller coaster at the end there. I was going, oh no, don't tell me his paper got stopped and he got, I don't know, something happened to him because the guard suddenly decided to check the pie. Like, who would do that? But no, like the narrator said, he got help from his friends. And so I don't know who the guy on the left is here, but he then goes into there, delivers the message, slash the paper, and then the guard then takes his note out. And I guess then it just passes through hands and hands and hands and hands until it gets into the actual paper himself. But either way, this guy was imprisoned for multiple months, it sounded like, somehow not eating the top of the pie, which is one of the best bits. But hey, I guess if you want to get your message out there, you have to just do what you have to do. And it certainly sounded like it was for a good cause. He was advocating not for this kind of just brutality or whatever you kind of want to describe it as, going, surely we don't have to be doing it this way, like I said, through bloodshed. We can just be doing it through, or just kind of come to an agreement, because internal conflict is never a good way to be building a country, let alone running a country. You know, it just stunts all the growth, all the good things about the country. No, it goes completely to the wayside because everyone is focused on just trying to stay alive. And of course, it sounds so obvious, but too often throughout the world and also throughout history, it's just not been the case, where these two people, two parties, two populations, whatever it may be, are just fighting and no one's getting anywhere. And so it is insane to me that too often throughout history as well, we've just been jailing people that aren't doing anything wrong. This guy was just writing paper and just writing, I guess, a different perspective that was generally thought about being correct. Or actually, I guess he was probably just on the wrong side of history, but he was still just writing his paper, keeping it going because he believed in what he was writing. And so he just went, stuff it, I just need to try and get this message out because this is what I believe in. Actually, hang on a second, I was just scrubbing through and I realized that that hand going to that coat is a blue coat, not a red coat. And so I guess that guy, his friend who was helping him just deliver this paper, did actually take it then back out of the pie and put it in his own coat. I would think that the guard, which is sticky fingers literally, was actually another person that was then taking it further because the friend couldn't get it to somewhere. But no, it's literally the guy was just quick-witted or quick-thinking enough just to take it out of the pie. Like, why would you take it out of the pie? Surely that's your hidden capsule, but obviously he just knew that the guard knows or wants his pies. And so all I can say is just hats off to these guys that were clearly risking their lives and risking their livelihoods just to be able to get their message that they really truly believed in. And it wasn't a negative message, it was a positive message of harmony and peace between both populations and everyone. But anyway, now moving on to our third one, we have John Humphrey.
No. Mr. Humphrey, this Universal Declaration of Human Rights that you are trying to impose.
Mrs. Roosevelt and I only drafted the declaration. It will be up to you and your fellow delegates to adopt or reject.
But what you are proposing is that individual human rights should override a nation's legislation.
Well, that the state would no longer be above the law.
C'est absurde. It would compromise the very sovereignty of the Republic.
What?
Yes, I believe it will.
Mr. President, in conclusion, I thank the court for allowing me to speak. I would like to reiterate that I believe my country's employment legislation discriminates against me because of my disability, and this violates the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Mr. President, our country's legislation was arrived at democratically. It is an expression of
Say,
our national...
isn't that the Canadian who actually wrote the Declaration of Human Rights?
Whoa, I never knew that the entire Declaration of Human Rights came about because of one guy. This guy, apparently, or his character. I mean, I guess he did say that someone else helped him draft it up, but either way, John Humphrey was responsible for some serious change worldwide. I mean, there are still issues in the world. Obviously, not every single country is able to follow it. I guess, I don't know, does anyone reject it? I don't really know. I don't think so. I think it is universal. It is just some countries aren't able to live up to it. But just the fact that all these other countries are going, oh, I don't really know about it. It's going to violate our own things, and it's going to be complicated. And he's just going, surely we just have to have some basic level of care towards humans and everyone. And saying it now and hearing it now, you go, surely this is something that has been around since the 1800s, 1700s, honestly, just since the beginning of time. But no, it was 1947, it was dreamt up. I don't know when it became kind of common practice. And then of course they show in 1986 they just have European Court of Human Rights, and it's just being put to the trial, or it's already been put to the trial for years. And so doing the usual scroll down, a Montreal-based lawyer from Hampton, New Brunswick drafts and wins support for the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights 1947. Well, clearly John Humphrey is a very smart fellow with a background in law, and then also to draft the Declaration of Human Rights, you certainly have to be thinking above the average person to be kind of thinking of those ideas, let alone actually putting them into practice. And so this is exactly what Heritage Minutes are just fantastic at, just opening your eyes to someone. I don't think I've ever heard of this guy before, but the fact that his legislation, his idea, and his implementation of work and effort into the entire thing just has changed the life of virtually every single person that could ever possibly watch this video, and everyone before, all the way back to 1947, I'm sure there were just millions, honestly billions of people have been affected by what he did. And for it to be a unanimously positive outcome is just the cherry on top, because too often someone loses in these equations. When you're influencing billions, it's either, okay, my country of a billion versus your country of a billion, but this one is just billions upon billions of people just hopefully having positive outcomes. And so I guess now all there is left to do is just to make sure that every single person in the world is positively affected by this, and hey, while we're at it, let's just bring on some animal rights as well. And now moving on to our fourth one, we have Marshall McLuhan.
TV sucks the brain right out of the skull. So next seminar we'll probe the content of television.
Professor McLuhan,
Well, of course, the content of television is movies, but the message of television is what it does to us, the users.
Are you saying that the medium is more important than the message it carries?
No. The medium is not more important than the message. It's obvious. The medium is the message.
Ah, the medium is the message.
The medium is the message? What does that mean?
Well, of course, the medium is the message. It's what I...
He's full of great ideas.
Like print changed the shape of the world,
Yeah, people don't read newspapers, they get into them like a warm bath.
This Canadian changed the way the world thinks about communications.
Is the message, then the content must be the audience. And of course, electronic information is turning the world into a global village. Take light bulbs, they're an information medium.
Whoa, hang on a second there. He just transitioned into light bulbs and I was kind of following, but then you go into light bulbs as a form of communication and now you've just completely lost me. But no, that is incredible, because I've heard the medium is the message phrase before, but I didn't know it was Canadian, I didn't know who had it. And so to be coining a phrase like that, honestly, it says something about the entire message, whatever the phrase might be, but when it becomes a quote, you've clearly influenced enough people, just however it is actually influenced them, just to go, actually I hadn't thought about it like this, or that just incites this thought about this thing. And I guess if you do take it literally, then it doesn't really work. The medium can't be the message because the medium doesn't deliver any content. It just is what it is. It can't actually say anything, and that's what the message is all about. But when you just take the exact same piece of content and just take a different approach to how you distribute it, whether it be newspaper, radio, TV, online these days, I don't know, skywriting, just each of the different mediums is definitely going to provoke a different reaction within people, whether it be good or bad, and so you definitely have to choose and be precise. And so honestly, in the same way as the previous one, he's clearly a highly intelligent person, but I think it is more so the fact that he's just years ahead of his time, because as we just continue to evolve our current forms of communication and then just continue to make new forms of social communication, it really is, and you really have to be careful about what message that you're conveying, because like he says, the medium is the message and it can just change in the blink of an eye if you just aren't careful. But anyway, in saying that, I reckon I'm going to call it there. So thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to do the YouTube algorithmic things down below. Also, if this is the first video of mine that you are watching, then make sure to go check out just any other ones I've done. Also, make sure to go check out just any of the videos down in the description below, or hey, maybe even just want to consider subscribing so that you don't miss another one of these in the future. But all in all, have a good one and see ya.